Case number 1, Lego 21061, the Notre Dame Cathedral, Paris. A cathedral that took 182 years to build. Construction began in 1163 until 1345. For hundreds of years, Notre Dame was the tallest structure in Paris until the Eiffel Tower arrived in 1889 and took over the skyline. This is one of the defining works of Gothic architecture. Limestone walls, oak roof framing, lead-covered roofing, stained glass, flying buttresses, gargoyles, twin towers, and a spire that once rose above the city like a needle aimed at heaven. Today, we are examining Lego 21061 Notre Dame de Paris. If you want to see the complete build, please check out my build video. Notre Dame was built in 3 major stages. From 1163 to 1183 came the choir, the apse, and the altar. From 1182 to 1250 came the nave, the 2 towers, and the flying buttresses. Then, from 1250 to 1345 came the chapels and the refinements, the details that transformed the church into a landmark. Now let's begin where most visitors begin, the west facade. At the first level, there are 3 portals. On the left, the portal of the Virgin. In the center, the portal of the Last Judgment, and on the right, the portal of Saint Anne. They are different in shape, size, and decoration. Above them are 4 statues on the buttresses, and above those, a long horizontal band of 28 kings of Judea. At the rose windows, a stained glass evidence. Notre Dame has 3 major rose windows. The west rose window is the oldest and the smallest. Unfortunately, none of its original glass remains, and from inside the cathedral, part of it is obscured by the enormous organ pipes. The north rose window is a different story. It retains most of its original 13th century glass that gives the interior a deep, blue-toned light. The south rose window was gifted to the cathedral by King Louis IX. It is 13 meters wide and 19 meters tall, and made from 84 panels of stained glass centered around one depicting Christ in the New Testament. The towers, the original Paris skyline. Back when Notre Dame was new, they could be seen from anywhere in Paris. The 2 towers are not identical. There are differences in their size, ornamentations, and details. Inside them hangs the bells. The largest weighs around 13 metric tons. The transepts, flying stones and functional monsters. Moving to the side of the cathedral, we find one of Gothic architecture's most famous inventions, the flying buttress. It's beautiful and practical. A stone skeleton on the outside of the building. The flying buttresses transfer the weight of the roof and the walls outward, reducing the pressure on the main structure. They also help direct rainwater away from the stone. At Notre Dame, they were among the largest implementations of flying buttresses at the time. And then there are the gargoyles. These are functional rainwater channels, pushing water away from the walls to reduce erosion and corrosion. At the rear sit the apse, the oldest part of the cathedral. It is a semicircular end of the building, housing the choir and the altar. Above it was the roof, one of the oldest roof structures in Paris. Roughly 100 meters long, 13 meters wide, extending to around 40 meters at the transept. It was covered in flat lead plates, weighing more than 200 tons. At the base of the spire stood 12 statues of the apostles, 11 facing outward toward Paris, 1 faced inward, towards the spire. That one was St. Thomas. He was positioned as a tribute to Viollet-le-Duc, the lead architect behind the 19th century restoration. Now, inside the Notre Dame. From above, you can clearly see the cathedral's rectangular plan with a Latin cross formed by the transept, with stone columns, ribbed walled ceilings, black and white floor tiles, and walls that rise through multiple levels. There is the ambulatory with the stone pillars, the gallery for the choiristers, the rose windows appearing mainly in the first bay and around the junction between the transepts and the choir, and the high windows, enlarged in the 13th century to bring more light into the interior. The 6-part ribbed wall create one of the most majestic views in the cathedral, and the windows fill the interior not only with light but colored light. At the end of the nave stands the altar. Exhibit B, the Lego translation. Now we turn to LEGO 21061. From a distance, the shape is unmistakable. The proportions are convincing. At approximately 1/500th scale, this is obviously not minifigure scale. Like most LEGO architecture sets, it is designed as a miniature monument, not a place for minifigures to move in. And the designer did an incredible job. The twin towers look almost exactly right. The flying buttresses are well replicated. The north and south rose windows are beautifully represented. The spire, with its ring of statues, is immediately recognizable. There are also some excellent part choices. The two L bars used for the gargoyle rainwater outlets, the black sheet slope used inside the tower facade, and the small star wands used as tiny pillars. The model even recreates 3 different portal shapes on the west facade, which is a lovely detail. However, the west rose window should ideally be recessed more deeply. The spires and the statues around it looks almost identical to the real thing. You get 12 tiny statues plus 1 spare. 1 tiny figure should face inward towards the spire. The removable roof is a great feature for this model. It lets you look down into the nave and see the black and white floor tiles. You also get a glimpse of Notre Dame Cathedral after the 2019 fire. You can also remove the north and south rose window portals for a clearer look into the interior. Is the Notre Dame a joy to build? Not entirely. There are the star wands, then the tower, then the spikes, then the endless stacks of 1x1 elements. They are tedious to assemble. They are even more tedious to disassemble. I built and dismantled this model several times with a time-lapse video. So when I say that it can be painful, I'm speaking from experience. There are rows of 1x2 decorative plates around the building. These plates have directions. I am not normally someone who carefully aligns every LEGO logo, but when many of these plates are lined up next to one another, they need to face the same way. And then there are these flying buttresses. They are not linked together at the top, so lining them up perfectly is a challenge. And if they are even slightly off, they stick out like a sore thumb. But once you correct them, once the rows are straight, the plates are aligned, the buttresses sit properly, and the symmetry comes back, it satisfies the eye like very few things can. So despite the pain, I give the details a win. Final verdict. LEGO 21061 Notre Dame de Paris is one of the best LEGO models I have ever built. The building process has highs and lows. Architecture sets are not generally known for being pure fun. They ask for patience and precision. They ask you to care about the direction of decorative plates that is barely larger than your fingernail. But the final result is worth it. The details are faithfully translated. The proportions are beautiful. The silhouette is unmistakable. And the presence of this model is extraordinary. It is stunning from every angle. A cathedral built from stone that took 182 years. This one takes much less time. But when it sits on the shelf, catching the light from the right angle, it still feels like it carries a little of the same history. Case closed.